here today to give an update on the excavations at Loak Farm, which took place in 2019. We've recently completed the post-excavation work and we've submitted our publication to SARE, so that should be available soon for you to read more. Right. The site was located to the south of Loak Farm and was divided into two areas. The area was considered to have excellent archaeological potential for prehistoric features. And we actually identified a number of prehistoric structures, including 7 roundhouses, 2 ring ditches, 8 four-post structures, 2 six-post structures, 3 other post-built structures, and numerous isolated pits and groups of pits. In addition, several features, including 2 possible kilns, were radiocarbon dated to the very early medieval period. Today, I'm going to discuss those structures and other features and bring in the post-excavation results. So 6 roundhouses were found in Area 1. Roundhouse 1, which is at the top of this. Oh, no. Oh, I've gone back now. Right. Yeah. So Roundhouse 1, which is at the top of this slide here, consisted of a post ring of 13 post holes and 2 larger pits. 2 body sherds of later prehistoric pottery were recovered from pit 132, which is that one. And Roundhouse 2, which is at the bottom of the plan, comprised a partial post ring consisting of 7 post holes, and 2 pits were associated with this roundhouse. Roundhouse 3, which is in the middle, consisted of post ring of 13 post holes. 3 shallow pits were situated just on the inside of the post ring on the southeastern side. These are possibly the remains of a ring ditch or an entrance structure. Pit 148, which is the one I've just pointed out, was radiocarbon dated to the late Bronze Age and contained 13 sherds of later prehistoric pottery. One of the other internal pits, pit 216, contained this coarse stone pounder or grinder, as well as a hammerstone. The pounder is a fine cobble tool dated to the Bronze Age or Iron Age. Roundhouse 4 consisted of a post ring of 10 post holes. There were several related features, including a possible porch structure, which is this one here. And then radiocarbon dates from post hole 160 dated to the late Bronze Age. Sherds of later prehistoric pottery were recovered from several features within and associated with this roundhouse, including 1 base from pit 170. A hollowed stone was recovered from the topsoil overlaying this roundhouse during the soil stripping stage. This is a fine oval rounded basin which has been grounded into the upper face of the stone. A rough channel, which is just here, has been pecked across the flat side rim of the slab at one end, and we presume that this is to drain or collect liquid associated with the basin. It's possible that this was associated with some sort of metal working that was going on the site, and slag was found in one of the post holes of Roundhouse 4, which would add to that evidence. Roundhouse 5 consisted of a post ring of 8 post holes and the partial remains of a ring ditch. This ring groove. This is the only roundhouse on site with a ring groove. And within the post ring, there was a line of 3 internal pits, post holes, which likely would have supported a roof. And you can just see these just here. Hopefully my pointer's in the right place. A later prehistoric base sherd was recovered from post hole 729, and post hole 696 contained 1 body sherd of later prehistoric pottery. This is Roundhouse 6, which consisted of 10 evenly spaced post holes and 3 additional internal post holes, as well as a possible entrance structure to the southwest, east. Internally, there was also an internal possible central post hole there for the large central post. Several of these post holes contained body sherds of later prehistoric pottery, and 2 of the post holes were subject to radiocarbon dating, and the resulting date range was again in the late Bronze Age. Roundhouse 7 is the only one that was found in the second area of the site, and this appears to have been part of a complex of buildings with 4 post structures, 2, 3, 5, and 6, which can also be seen in this plan. It consisted of a post ring of 8 post holes, and we had 2 additional post holes that created this entrance at the south. In summary, the radiocarbon dating of the roundhouses gave us a middle to late Bronze Age date range. The post rings had diameters ranging from 5.6 to 11.2 meters, which is in line with data from previously excavated examples, which suggests that roundhouses generally had an overall diameter between 4 and 14 meters. However, all of the roundhouses have been really plough truncated, and so it's really difficult to know what the full extent of the structures was. If they had all got post rings, then they would have been much larger. Post rings could have been much more ephemeral. They would have been maybe constructed with wattle and daub or turf, and so therefore the majority of the evidence would have disappeared. In examples where outer rings have been identified, such as the Roundhouse 5 that we had, the inner post rings generally accounted for 60 to 60% of the overall diameter. This would update the diameter range of the roundhouses at Loak Farm to the smallest at 9.55 meters to 10.67, and the largest at 16.7 to 18.7 meters, which is obviously makes them on the larger end of the roundhouse range that's normally accepted. So another possibility is that only Roundhouse 5 had this external outer ring. Another feature seen at Loak Farm is the entrance structures, which were identified at Roundhouse 4, 5, 6, and 7. All of these were to the south or southeast of the post rings, and that's again in line with other excavated examples. Various theories around cosmology have been suggested for the siting of these entrances, but it's most likely that this was just out of the prevailing westerly wind. Ring ditch 824 was possibly represents another roundhouse, and this circle kind of gives you an idea of the size of that structure could have been. A pair of samples were radiocarbon dated to the Middle Iron Age. A perforated cobble was recovered from the fill of this ring ditch, and that's the lower one on this image. The example on the top of the image was from pit 399, which lay approximately 40 meters to the northeast of this ring ditch. The function of these perforated cobbles is not known, but they're likely to be components of much larger equipment. And the most likely use is a weight or flywheel for some sort of rotational piece of equipment, such as a drill, with the different size. Oh, too much clicking. With the different sizes, possibly due to working with like different materials. And generally, objects of this type date to the Middle Bronze Age or later. The second ring ditch, 545, was identified in Area 2, and this ditch contained a notable amount of stone, as you can see from the section drawings. And a sample was dated to the Iron Age. The 2 ring ditches are possibly further roundhouses. However, they're both a much later date than the roundhouses that we found on site. Various interpretations have been suggested for the purpose of ring ditches, ranging from being created by extra wear from overwintering cattle, which had been confined to one location, through to being some sort of storage space, such as like a mini souterrain. Another possible purpose may have been for drainage. If they were around a roundhouse, then they could help to keep the internal structure drier. And as you can see from these images of ring ditch 545, they often contain a high percentage of stone, which might have aided this drainage use. So we had 2 6-post structures, both of which were near Roundhouse 5, and they measured around 3 meters square and 3.5 by 4 meters square. Roundhouse 6. The first one is at the top of the image, and this contained 4 sherds of pottery, late prehistoric in date, including 1 everted rim, and radiocarbon dates. It was radiocarbon dated to the late Bronze Age. The second 6-post structure, which lies to the south, just here, contained 40 sherds of prehistoric pottery, including 2 bases and an everted rim. This image shows the 2 bases and the everted rims. The everted rims are particularly indicative of the late Bronze Age date, which is in line with the radiocarbon dating. The 4-post structures ranged in size from around 2.5 by 2.5 up to 4 by 4 meters. Very few of them contained finds, and the environmental samples only revealed trace amounts of degraded plant detritus and charcoal. 4-post structure 1 was the only one of this type of structure that was found in area 1, and you can see its location just up here. In area 2, we have 4-post structures 2 to 8, and their locations are just shown here. 4-post structure 2 was notable as some of the post holes showed evidence of having been recut. 3 sherds of prehistoric pottery, including a base, were also recovered from this structure. 4-post structure 5 and 6 were notable as they partly overlay each other, as you can see on this plan. And 4-post structure 3 had slightly irregularly spaced post holes, and it contained this trough quern, which is indicative of agricultural use and dates to the Bronze Age. It was reused as a post hole filling or as a post pad for 4-post structure 3. Unfortunately, the stone has become very friable, and its full extent is not doesn't remain, so we don't know how big it was originally. The bit that survived is because it was used and it's become compressed over time. Of the various interpretations given for 4, 6, and 4-post structures, ranging from animal pens through to exposure platforms, the most widely accepted theory is they were raised granaries. This is a reconstruction from Butzer Farm of what these kind of structures could have looked like. And it's thought that the raised aspect of the building would prevent vermin from accessing the stored grain. Several of the 4-post structures showed evidence of at least 2 phases of construction, with recut post holes and overlying structures, suggesting they could have been in use for like a number of years. So we have some other structures on site. Both structures 1 and 2 lay in area 1, and they were both in proximity to different roundhouses. Structure 1 lies sort of between the 2 6-post structures right next to Roundhouse 5. And the post holes were notably smaller in size, as you can see from the plan. And so it's been interpreted as maybe a lighter weight structure, perhaps an outbuilding for Roundhouse 5, such as a pen for animals or to store firewood. Structure 2 lay to the northwest of Roundhouse 6, and this is a more substantial post and post-trench structure. This suggests it was designed to support very heavy loads. And one suggestion was that it could be a heavy duty version of the 4-post grain structures. Some evidence of posts being replaced was seen with this structure, suggesting that it was in use for a long time and there was of sufficient significance for repairs to be carried out. A large quantity of oak charcoal was recovered from Gully 849, which may have been fuel waste or the remains of structural timbers like burnt in situ. Structure 3 lay to the west of area 2. It's right on the edge of the site, just here. And it was defined by 9 post holes around the edge, as well as a single central post hole. 2 post holes were identified just to the north of the structure, and it suggested that these would have been support or replacement posts. Again, use of the building over time, posts being replaced. Similarly to structure 1, the post holes are quite small in size, so it would have been a lighter weight structure, and it might have had a similar function as an animal pen or for firewood storage. As well as the many structures that we identified, there was a number of isolated pits and groups of pits. The earliest evidence on site was in area 2, with 1 pit in this area dated to the Neolithic, which links the site to the kind of wider ritual landscape, which is dominated by Loak Hill Bower. Several large pits also in area 2, which are pictured on this slide, showed evidence of having contained substantial timber uprights. These were not part of any structure, they were just kind of on their own. And it's speculated that these could be further connection to the wider ritual landscape. Obviously, unsurprisingly, the majority of other features on the site did align with the Bronze Age date of the structural activity, with a range of late Bronze Age radiocarbon dates and pottery. I've already discussed the hollowed stone and the perforated stone, one of which came from an isolated pit, but there was other potential evidence for craft activity on site, with 2 large stone blocks, which could be structural stones, but it's more likely they were anvils or working rests for craft activities. They were both found in larger pits away from the structures and could have been used for activities that need to be located outside of the main occupation area. Many of the Bronze Age pits contained evidence for burning, including oak charcoal, firecracked stone, and barley, and it's likely that they were just fire or waste pits. 2 features located near roundhouses 4 and 6, both of which contain no finds, were dated to the early Iron Age. This adds to the evidence of the 2 ring ditches of a slight continuity of occupation into the Iron Age. As well as the prehistoric features, we did find 4 early medieval features, and these were 2 pits in area 1, the location of which can be seen in purple on the insight plan just here, and 2 possible field ovens or corn drying kilns in area 2, which can be seen in green on this insight plan. The area 1 pits contained smithing hearth bottoms. These are the solidified remains of slag forming at the base of blacksmith hearths during use. Smithing hearth bottoms are a relatively common find, dating to the late Iron Age to the medieval, and they indicate ironsmithing has taken place. We radiocarbon dated these pits, and the results of that are in purple on this table, which it doesn't look very purple, but it's the 4 ones on the top. And that gave us a range from 771 to 994 AD. The kilns in area 2 both contained carbonized cereal grain, including barley, charcoal, and evidence for in situ burning. This indicates that this area was being used for crop processing. And the radiocarbon dates for the kiln are in green, and they show a range from 259 to 655 AD. And they're the 4 on the bottom because the color doesn't really show. The early medieval reoccupation for the site following activity in the prehistoric pottery period is not unknown. Pit-Karmic type longhouses dating to the 7th to 9th century AD commonly share locations with prehistoric roundhouse settlements and have been found at places like Lair and Glen Shee. A notable feature of the Pit-Karmic type longhouses is the lack of post holes, meaning they leave very little archaeological evidence. A combination of food processing and ironworking activity in the early medieval period at Loak Farm may indicate there was nearby domestic structures as well, which have either left no trace in the archaeological record, like Pit-Karmic type longhouses, or we've just not uncovered them. Overall, the excavations gave a valuable insight into what appears to have been an extensive later prehistoric settlement of the mid to late Bronze Age. We've uncovered evidence of what appears to be a thriving community with timber roundhouses for accommodation and sufficient grain production to require storage. Additional evidence of other industrial activity includes perforated stones, the hollowed stone, and the possible anvils. Iron Age radiocarbon dates associated with the two ring ditches and isolated pits suggest some continuity in occupation. Pits and kilns associated with metalworking and grain processing produced much later dates, suggesting the site was reoccupied in the early medieval period. For updates, please keep an eye on our website, which has been recently redesigned, and our social media, and I'm sure we'll be shouting about it when the publication's out. Thanks to all the people listed here for all of their excellent work pulling everything together for this talk. Thank you very much.